now that we've checked everything out, I will show you guys. I'm going to change the background really quickly because that other background was too dark. Now I'm going to show you guys all the other cool things that deformers can do. But first, let's just open up our outliner so that you can see these deformers that were created. They're always created as separate entities on their own. And the very cool thing, if you delete them, all of your objects come back to the way they were. Now, if you didn't want them to change, and I'm going to hit C so that you can understand, if you did not want these objects to change after deleting these, you could go ahead and do something like delete history off of all of the geo. And you'll notice the geometry stays and all of the deformers automatically disappear. The reason for that, once the deformers or once the history is deleted off of any surface, there is no need for the deformer and Maya automatically removes it for you. That's Maya being nice and kind. That's not a common thing, so be grateful if you find it. So for this one, I'm going to just get rid of all of the others, keep the one cube with all the loops, and then just pop into my duplicate special mode because I'm going to translate these in not -2 but in +2. Let's make it actually 3 and 0. 0. This is from my previous demo. Let's not do 60, but we can do 6, for example. And just make sure that we group it under world and hit apply or duplicate special. So you can see now I have all of the loops and all of these versions, which is great because now we can start looking at all of the things that we can do to these. Now, sometimes when you are working, you're going to find it can be really annoying to view the world space no matter what background color we use. It always feels like stuff is like kind of merging in, although this is pretty decent now that I look at it. But if you're ever like especially in the grays, I feel like it's very easy for stuff to sort of disappear. I have a good solution for that, which can be really helpful. This comes into the shading menu over here, where you're going to find you have the option to do something called wireframe on shaded. That means even when you let it go, you can see the topology just over on the surface itself. By the way, this doesn't render like this, in case that's at all a concern. It's just for your own edification. But now that we know how to add deformers and remove deformers, and we know how to see everything that's happening, let's go ahead really quickly and check out all of these different types of nonlinear deformers that are available to us. First, there's the bend, which, as you can see, it just puts a little line in here. And again, what we can do to make this even more interesting, let's come into our shading menu and go into X-ray so that now you can see right through these and the wireframe gives you context. So once again, let's go over here into our input mode. Here you can see the curvature. Remember, you can get to it even through the cube itself. You'll see bend 1. If you click on it, this will open up, and here's a curvature option. So this is oftentimes a really good way to make curved surfaces or curved objects. And here's the low bound and high bound option that you may not have realized before. But this will help you kind of determine how far something can go. So, and like this as well. Here's another really cool thing that you probably did not know about deformers. Is if you translate it, as long as the deformer is active and the object is obviously has not had its history removed, you can move these things and have them kind of translate as you need. I just remembered translate Y was 4, not 0. So now I can kind of play around with this. I can make the high bound and low bound stuff sort of different. Here, let's curve this. And if you want, you can also manually adjust this. Select the actual deformer, not the geometry this time. But I can rotate this as well and make it bend in a different direction. So you can see there's a lot of really cool things that you can do as long as deformers are working and still active. There are, caveats to all of this, but just keep in mind if you were moving something, then this is how you would do it. Just undoing this so that you can put it back to where it was. All right, let's move on to step number 2, flares. Flares are fun. They look very similar to the squash deformer, except now you have a circle on top and at the bottom. And if you see over here, instead of doing just like a single attribute option over here, we have a start flare X and Z and end flare X and Z. There's also a curvature option, but let's start with the basics. If you do just one attribute at a time, you're going to see this comes out a little bit different from if you do them together. So let's grab this and then end flare. So if you're looking to do things to buildings and making them cute, you could do that. If you want to just make your building fatter, I suppose you could do that too, but it sort of defeats the purpose of the whole like flariness. Let's do that and let's see what the curve aspect does. Oh, look at that. Now we got some pretty nice results happening. But don't forget, still has the option of setting up a low bound and a high bound, so you can get a lot of variations just by coming in, fiddling with a few of these attributes, and getting some really good results out of it. Moving on, there's the sine wave. Now, whenever a line is going up through the center of an object, that's a good thing. And in the sine wave, this is probably not surprising, but you can see it makes a sine wave. Remember math? Math is fun. Math is a lot of fun. Don't argue. But here you can see you can increase or decrease the wavelength. If you decrease the wavelength, you will obviously at some point break it because we still don't have enough geometry, but this is why. So if you're looking to do something more complex, you'll need more topology. Otherwise, this, yeah, like I said, it's pretty broken when you decrease the wavelength. Here's the offset to help you decide where the sine wave works. And then you have a drop-off section which will increase or decrease the area that it affects, sort of like the envelope. And as before, a low bound and a high bound option. And of course, we can rotate it. It won't work as well here, but gives you some options and ideas. And no, you cannot like include another object into that unless you've selected them both and then bound them together. And in fact, what I can do is just bring this back here. Notice I didn't pick one of the bound objects, but I can bring this here, do another duplicate special, and hide these for the moment so that we can come back and do more experiments if we need to. But we've done the sine. Here's the squash. You guys already know how the squash and stretch works. Really enjoys doing its stuff. And then pop up here for twist. Twist. A lot of fun. Start angle, end angle. So you can move these and have them follow each other. Again, the geo really matters. The topology really matters. High bound, low bound. So you can see there's a lot of really good options over here that will help you get some like really quick results really easily. So here's this. And one final one, which is the wave. So this is going to be a little bit tougher because the wave doesn't quite work in the way that we would expect. The wave is designed primarily to work on plane surfaces or on other sort of like things with more surface area, you might say. So in order to really see that, let's just pop in over here. I'm going to open up my outliner for a second and just hide all of these things because they're kind of in the way. Grab these and the bend, fine, like all of this stuff. Let's just grab it all, put it in a group so that it stays out of the way. That's Control G in case you're wondering. Call this old samples, and then hit H to hide it. So that's out and done. We have the plane, and then we have the set of things that were duplicated so that we could see them again. So here's this. Now let's take a look at the wave one more time. This will try, like you can see, it looks more comfortable now because it's actually adjusted to the shape of the plane itself. So we can increase the amplitude. Ooh, that went a little nuts. Maybe we should have had more topology here. And I'm going to turn off X-ray because it sort of makes it harder to see. But here's this. We have a wavelength. If you again decrease the wavelength, it's just going to get really spiky really fast, and then you can offset. And by the way, this you can animate, and actually all of these you can animate, so keep that in mind. Let me also just really quickly delete this because I'm going to make another plane with much higher topology. Let's make this come up to 50. That seems reasonably busy. And again, now let's increase this. Ooh. Going a little crazy with the amplitude. Here, we've got this. Let's decrease the wavelength. Made the wavelength really small. So this over here is basically how you can make and modify things with wonderful sets of deformers, and actually stylize the world as you create it as well.